Hey, what's going on? I'm Matt O'Leary back with another video, and today's topic is going to be the New York Jets running back expectations. But before we get started, I just want to mention that you can follow me on social media at Matt O'Leary NY on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. So now that we got that out of the way, let's jump right into it, and I will start by the number one guy, Le'Veon Bell. The Jets bring him in after he sits out an entire year. We know he was a workhorse in Pittsburgh, but what can we expect from him in 2019 after a year off with the New York Jets? For me, running the ball, he's going to have around 1,200 yards, 8 touchdowns, 4.5 yards per attempt, and roughly 260 to 270 rushing attempts. He won't be over 300 like he was in his last season playing with Pittsburgh, but somewhere in that 260, 275 range I think is pretty fair expectations. I expect the Jets to start him off slow. Granted, he hasn't played anything in the preseason, so I don't expect him to be getting a ton of touches early on, which is what's going to impact my stats when we talk about Ty Montgomery and Bilal Powell. But for me, he's going to be the Jets' best skill position player since they had Curtis Martin in 2004. And we know Curtis Martin had a huge year that year, so this year it should be a big-time year for Le'Veon Bell. Something that is extremely exciting with Le'Veon Bell is what he can do coming out of the backfield in the receiving game. He should have over 500 receiving yards. I'll go 510. I'll say 2 receiving touchdowns. If he gives the Jets 10 total touchdowns and over 1,700 all-purpose yards, this is a great deal in year one for the New York Jets. It's all about what you can do for Sam Darnold's development on his rookie deal. So it's okay if you overpay a running back early on in Sam's career. After he gets paid, different story. But for now, great move bringing in Le'Veon Bell. I think he has a monster year. That brings us to Ty Montgomery, who will act as RB2 for the New York Jets, and I think he should have around 250 rushing yards. He's going to be utilized more in the passing game, I think, but he is a skilled running back and someone who could be very versatile. I'll have him 1 rushing touchdown, about 4 yards per carry on 60 to 65 attempts. As for receiving, I expect him to be up around 150 receiving yards. Maybe no touchdowns, but he should have at least 20 receptions, maybe even more than that. We could see those numbers increase depending on Le'Veon Bell's availability early on in the season. And bringing him in is such a huge addition too. And I know I'm a huge fan of Bilal Powell, who I'll talk about next, but last year, when Bilal Powell went down and Isaiah Crowell went down, the Jets were rolling out Eli McGuire and Trenton Cannon. They just cut Eli McGuire. He is not a good running back. Trenton Cannon's a good special teamer, okay running back. I mean, it's still early in his career, so we're not necessarily sure what's going on there. But having a 1-2 punch of Bell and Montgomery is going to be huge for this Jets offense. They could do a lot. They could have them on the field at the same time. It should be a lot of fun, and Adam Gase should be, utilizing both in big spots. That brings us to Bilal Powell, who I also think he's going to have roughly 250 yards rushing. Now, I know he's further down on the depth charts than in years gone by, but he's a very efficient runner and has been for a long time. The Jets drafted him in 2011. He's one of the longest tenured Jets on this roster, and his best year was in 2016 when he had a ton of time because Matt Forte was garbage. I don't think he'll have any rushing touchdowns, but he should average over 4 yards per carry. He's done that essentially his entire career, and he should get about 60 rushes this year throughout the entirety of the season. I know that's pretty similar to what I said for Ty Montgomery, but to me, Montgomery is more going to be utilized in the receiving game, and Powell could be spelled for either one of those two guys, but I really like Bilal Powell's game, and I think he does have a better year than some people are thinking. Receiving yards, I'll say between 100, 120, maybe 15, 20 at the absolute most receptions. I don't think he'll have any receiving touchdowns, but he is someone who, if, God forbid, something happens to one of the two guys in front of him, the Jets should feel 100% comfortable with running Bilal Powell out there. And lastly, just to touch on Trenton Cannon, I don't think he's going to have much of an impact on receiving or rushing, but he is going to come on special teams as the gunner. I think he'll start out as the kick returner. Personally, I like Dortch a little bit better. I'd like to see him get some reps as the kick returner, but ultimately, Cannon has an ability on special teams, so that's why he's sticking around. But for me, they're going to ride Le'Veon Bell, not as much as maybe they did in Pittsburgh. Ty Montgomery is a good change of pace back, and Bilal Powell as RB3 is a really solid RB group. They have one of the deepest running back groups in the entire NFL, and it'll be put on display this year for the New York Jets. Let me know in the comments what you think these three guys are going to put up or what this Jets are going to do with the running backs in 2019. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe, like the video if you really enjoyed it, and get at me on social media at Matt O'Leary NY. Thank you so much for tuning in. Talk to you guys next time.